They took the life of one human child. The Inquisition declared Exterminatus in 6 hours. If you are not a heretic, then declare your city of origin. Leave a comment, a like, and subscribe to the Emperor's glory. At the conclusion, rate this tale from 0 to 10. The Emperor protects. The Corvani delegation watched in stunned silence as the human child's body was loaded into the stasis pod. 6 years old, maybe 7. Her name had been Lydia. The reptilian Secthari assassin had killed her with surgical precision. A single plasma bolt to the chest while she played with her toy Aquila outside the settlement perimeter. Just one human juvenile, hissed Ambassador Vextar, his forked tongue tasting the air. Surely this tragic accident will not derail our negotiations with the Imperium. Captain Michael Corvinus of the Ultramarines stood motionless, his massive frame casting a shadow over the diplomatic table. The blue ceramite of his power armor reflected the sterile lights of the orbital station. Behind his helm's crimson lenses, something ancient and terrible was stirring. Accident? The word came out as barely more than a whisper through his vox grill. The Corvani, tall, graceful beings resembling humanoid deer with silver fur and crystalline antlers, shifted uncomfortably. Elder Silverhorn, their chief diplomat, had witnessed 3 centuries of interstellar politics. He had never seen a human remain so still for so long. Captain, Ambassador Vextar continued, his vertical pupils narrowing. The child wandered into a restricted military zone. My operative was conducting reconnaissance. Standard protocol demanded. The Aquila pendant on Captain Corvinus's chest began to glow with a faint imperial radiance. Silverhorn's enhanced hearing detected something impossible. The Space Marine's twin hearts were beating in perfect synchronization, like war drums before a charge. You killed a child of the Emperor, Corvinus said, each word falling like a death sentence. On Imperial soil during negotiations under the Pax Imperialis, the Secthari delegation, 6-foot-tall reptilians with scale armor and cold, calculating eyes, remained unimpressed. They had evolved from apex predators on their desert homeworld. Violence was simply another tool of diplomacy. The greater good requires sacrifices, Vextar replied, a phrase he had learned from their brief alliance with the Toe. Surely the Imperium understands pragmatism. That was when Silverhorn realized they had made a catastrophic error. The human child hadn't just died. She had died while holding a small stuffed toy, a miniature space marine in blue armor, clearly meant to represent the ultramarines who protected her colony world. The Voxcom crackled to life. This is Inquisitor Helena Vex of the Ordo Xenos. The woman's voice cut through the station's recycled air like a chainsword through flesh. All non-Imperial personnel are to remain in designated areas pending investigation. Elder Silverhorn's antlers began to glow faintly, a sign of extreme distress among his people. In 300 years of diplomacy, he had never heard an Inquisitor speak with such controlled fury. The humans weren't just angry. They were moving into what his tactical advisors called Imperial Crusade mode. Investigation? Vextar laughed, a sound like grinding stone. For one small human, we are prepared to offer compensation. Perhaps a trade agreement favorable to your... Captain Corvinus moved. One moment he was standing 5 meters away. The next, his gauntleted hand had closed around Vextar's throat, lifting the reptilian ambassador clear off the ground. The Space Marine's strength was beyond anything the Secthari had calculated. Her name was Lydia Marie Santos, Corvinus said, his voice carrying across the diplomatic chamber with the authority of 10,000 years of warfare. She was 6 years old. Her favorite color was blue, like the sky of her homeworld, like the armor of the Emperor's angels. She wanted to be a sister of battle when she grew up. Silverhorn felt his secondary heart skip a beat. The human hadn't just memorized the child's name. He had learned about her hopes, her dreams, her favorite things. In the 15 minutes since the murder, this genetically enhanced killing machine had somehow made himself care about one small human child he had never met. The other Corvani delegates were backing away from the table. Their survival instincts, honed by millennia of evolution as prey animals, were screaming warnings. The smell in the air had changed. It now carried the metallic tang of spilled blood and burning promethium, scents that shouldn't exist on a sterile diplomatic station. "Release me, Mon Key," Vextar wheezed, using the Eldar slur for humans. It was a mistake that would echo across 3 star systems. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees as Captain Corvinus activated his armor's cooling systems. When he spoke again, his voice carried the grinding authority of tectonic plates shifting. I am a son of Gilliman, a defender of humanity, a space marine of the Adeptus Astartes. Each title rang out like a bell tolling for the dead. And you have just murdered an innocent child under my protection. The Voxcom crackled again. Multiple voices now, speaking in rapid Gothic. Battle cant. Silverhorn's translation implants caught fragments. Mobilizing fleet assets. Exterminatus protocols. The child must be avenged. Surely you don't mean, one of the Secthari began. Silence. The single word from Corvinus carried enough authority to stop a Titan in its tracks. Inquisitor Vex is currently explaining to Lord Admiral Karras why his fleet should not commence orbital bombardment of your homeworlds. You have 6 hours to convince me that your species deserves to continue existing. Silverhorn realized with crystalline clarity that they were no longer involved in a diplomatic incident. They were witnessing the opening moves of an imperial crusade. The humans hadn't just been offended or angered. The death of one child had triggered something fundamental in their psyche, something that had enabled them to wage 10 millennia of total war across the galaxy. 6 hours? Vextar managed to gasp. The Inquisition declared, Exterminatus authorization 18 minutes ago. Corvinus replied matter-of-factly. It takes 6 hours for our nearest battle fleet to achieve optimal bombardment position. Use that time wisely. The Space Marine released the Secthari ambassador, who collapsed gasping to the deck. Around the diplomatic chamber, blast doors were sealing with ominous finality. The soft hum of the station's life support had been replaced by the deep thrumming of weapons charging to full power. Elder. Silverhorn understood now why the Corvani had allied with the Imperium rather than fight it. These humans didn't just wage war, they waged it with a passionate intensity that bordered on the religious. The death of a single child hadn't just been murder to them. It had been blasphemy against their entire species, and as the station's lights shifted from diplomatic white to the blood red of a combat alert, Silverhorn began to wonder if 6 hours would be enough time to prevent the extinction of 2 entire species. The hunt for justice had begun, and humanity would not be denied. The human child's screams had stopped 3 hours ago. Captain Vexara of the Cytherian Defense Fleet pressed her scaled hands against the bridge viewport, watching the Imperial frigate Righteous Fury drift silently in the asteroid field. No response to any communication attempts. Captain, her communications officer chirped, his avian features ruffled with anxiety. The Terran vessel hasn't moved since the incident. Vexara's feline second-in-command, Commander Thale, padded over with liquid grace. Perhaps they're grieving. These mammals seem unusually attached to their offspring. The Cytherian captain's forked tongue flicked nervously. She'd served alongside human crews for 2 years now, ever since the Imperium had answered their distress call against the Zephyrian Dominion. Humans were unsettling allies. Effective, but unsettling. Sir, the sensor operator's voice cracked. I'm detecting massive warp signatures approaching. Multiple contacts, Imperial Navy classifications. The main screen flickered to life, showing dozens of red icons materializing from the warp. Battle cruisers, strike cruisers, and something massive, a vessel so large the scanner couldn't properly classify it. Sweet mother of stars, Thale whispered. That's half a fleet. Vexara had seen human reinforcements before, but never like this. Never with such precision. The Imperial ships arranged themselves in a perfect formation, weapons bristling like the quills of an angry predator. The communications array suddenly blazed to life. A deep, mechanically enhanced voice filled the bridge, speaking in perfect Gothic with a distinct accent that made every alien present instinctively recoil. This is Lord Inquisitor Cassius Vaughan of the Ordo Hereticus aboard the battle barge Emperor's Wrath. I hereby assume command of this theater under the authority vested in me by him on Terra. All vessels are to maintain position and prepare for immediate planetary assault. Vexara exchanged glances with her crew. Planetary assault? The Zephyrians had retreated to their fortress world of Skarn Prime after the human frigate's accident. Standard protocol would be orbital bombardment of military targets. Lord Inquisitor, she transmitted carefully, this is Captain Vex Ara of the Catherian vessel Swift Claw. We're grateful for the reinforcement, but our intelligence suggests a surgical strike would— Captain. The voice cut through her words like a blade. A child of the Imperium was murdered by Xenos filth. There will be no surgical strikes. There will be no mercy. There will be only the Emperor's justice. On the main screen, weapon signatures began lighting up across the Imperial fleet. Not just the standard lance batteries and macro cannons. Vexara's sensors detected cyclonic torpedoes, being loaded into firing tubes, virus bombs, atmospheric incineration charges. By the void, her weapons officer stammered, they're preparing for total planetary sterilization. Thale's ears flattened against his skull. The population of Skarn Prime is nearly 3 billion. Most are civilians. The Inquisitor's voice returned, now carrying an edge of cold fury that made the bridge temperature seem to drop. The Zephyrians tortured a human child for 7 hours before executing her. They broadcast her screams across 17 systems as psychological warfare. Every Zephyrian who heard those screams and did nothing is complicit. Every world that harbored them is tainted. Innocence proves nothing. Vexara felt her blood chill. She'd heard rumors about the Inquisition, whispered stories from other Catherian captains who'd encountered them, humans who possessed authority that transcended rank, species, or reason, humans who could order the death of worlds with a single word. Lord Inquisitor, she tried again, surely some form of negotiation. There will be no negotiation with child killers. The transmission ended abruptly. New contacts appeared on the screen. Smaller vessels, moving with predatory grace toward the asteroid field, where the righteous fury still drifted. The IFF tags identified them as Adeptus Astartes rapid strike vessels. Captain, the sensor operator's voice was barely a whisper, I'm detecting movement. Aboard the human frigate. Life signs are active. The main screen shifted to focus on the Imperial frigate. Through the viewport, shadows could be seen moving in the corridors. Not random movement, purposeful, organized. Commander Thale's enhanced feline vision picked up details the others missed. They're not grieving, he said slowly. They're praying, all of them, on their knees, facing the same direction. The communications array crackled to life again. This time, the voice was different, younger, filled with a quiet rage that somehow seemed more terrifying than the Inquisitor's cold fury. This is Chaplain Mordecai of the Crimson Fist's Third Company. To any Xenos listening, we have received word of Sister Superior Lydiana's fate. She was 12 Terran years old, 12. The Emperor's light has dimmed, and in its shadow we have found our purpose. Vexara watched in growing horror as the Space Marine vessels accelerated past her ship, heading directly for the warp translation point. Not toward Skarn Prime, toward the outer system worlds. Where are they going? She demanded. Her navigation officer, a nervous aquatic being whose gills fluttered with stress, checked the trajectory readings. They're heading for the Zephyrian colony worlds, the agricultural systems, the nursery worlds. The realization hit every alien on the bridge simultaneously. The humans weren't just planning to destroy Skarn Prime. They were planning to erase the entire Zephyrian species from existence. This is madness, Thale breathed. Total xenocide for the death of one child? The communications officer looked up from his station, his feathers pale with shock. Sir, I'm intercepting Imperial command channels. They're calling it Operation Righteous Cleansing. Total extermination of the Zephyrian Dominion within 48 hours. Vexara slumped into her command chair. In 2 years of alliance with the Imperium, she'd learned to respect human tenacity, their refusal to surrender, their ability to win impossible battles. But she'd never truly understood the depths of their capacity for vengeance. The screen showed the Imperial fleet beginning its burn towards Skarn Prime. At this rate, they'd reach orbital bombardment range in 16 hours. The outer world strikes would begin even sooner. Captain, her communications officer said quietly, the Tau delegation is requesting immediate evacuation. They're genuinely terrified. For the first time since joining the Allied fleet, Vexara truly understood why every hostile species in the galaxy feared the Imperium of Man. It wasn't their weapons. It wasn't their numbers. It wasn't even their refusal to die. It was their absolute unwavering conviction that their way of life was worth more than entire civilizations. The comm crackled one final time. The Inquisitor's voice returned, now addressing the entire Allied fleet. Let this serve as a lesson to all who would harm the innocent children of humanity. We are not like you. We do not forget. We do not forgive. And we do not show mercy to child killers. The Imperial fleet continued its relentless advance, leaving their alien allies to contemplate a simple, terrifying truth. They had chosen to stand beside the most dangerous species in the galaxy, and somewhere in the void between stars, 12-year-old Sister Superior Lydiana's death was about to cost 3 billion lives. The reptilian command ship materialized from the void like a metallic leviathan, its bioadaptive hull gleaming with stolen technologies from a dozen conquered species. Fleet Commander Seth watched through compound eyes as his forces surrounded the primitive human vessel, a crude, angular thing that barely registered on their sensors as a threat. Pathetic, he hissed, forked tongue tasting the recycled air of his bridge. One ship against our entire expeditionary fleet. These mammals must have malfunctioned neural processors. His tactical officer, scales rippling with nervous patterns, consulted the bioscreens. Commander, initial scans show irregularities. The ship's energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases, and there are only 12 life forms aboard. 12? Seth's laugh was a sound like grinding metal. 12 beings dare to intercept a hegemony war fleet? Open communications. I wish to see these creatures before we harvest their world. Meanwhile, aboard the Imperial strike cruiser Righteous Fury, Inquisitor Marcus Aurelius stood in the Gothic cathedral that served as the ship's bridge. Servo skulls buzzed overhead, inscribing his every word onto parchment scrolls as he dictated his final report. Behind him, 11 Space Marines of the Death Corps chapter stood in perfect formation, their black armor adorned with skull motifs that seemed to move in the flickering candlelight. The Xenos believe. They hold the advantage. Marcus spoke into the Voxcaster, his words transmitted across the Imperium. They do not yet understand what they have awakened. They killed an Imperial citizen, a child under our protection. The Talon hegemony has declared war on humanity itself. Captain Thaddeus, the Death Corps leader, stepped forward. His helmet was mag-locked to his belt, revealing a face that had seen 10 centuries of war. Scars crisscrossed his features like a roadmap of violence. Inquisitor, we await your command. The communication array crackled to life. Siseth's serpentine features filled the main screen, his scaled face twisted in what passed for amusement among his kind. Human creatures. I am Fleet Commander Siseth of the Talon hegemony. You will surrender immediately and submit to processing. Your resistance is mathematically impossible. Marcus turned toward the screen slowly, his weathered face calm as stone. I am Inquisitor Marcus Aurelius of the Holy Ordos. You have committed the gravest of heresies, the murder of an innocent under Imperial protection. For this crime, your species will face judgment. 1 ship, Siseth laughed. 12 beings. Against 47 vessels and 10,000 warriors. Your mathematics are flawed. Our mathematics are irrelevant, Marcus replied. We are human. We do not calculate odds, we create them. The transmission cut to static. Around the bridge, the Death Corps Marines began their pre-battle rituals, checking bolt pistols and chainswords with reverent care. Each weapon was blessed, each magazine kissed and whispered to, with prayers that had remained unchanged for 10 millennia. Brother Cassius, the squad's heavy weapons specialist, hefted a plasma cannon that could vaporize a tank. For the child of Kepler Prime, he rumbled, his voice distorted by his helmet's vox grills. For the child, his brothers echoed. Marcus closed his eyes and felt the familiar weight of duty settle upon his shoulders. In his long service to the Imperium, he had faced Chaos Marines, Tyrannid swarms, and Orc Wars. But this was different. This was personal. The reptilians had not merely attacked humans, they had murdered the innocent. They had crossed a line that existed in every human soul, a boundary that separated civilization from barbarism. Tactical assessment, Captain, he ordered. Thaddeus consulted his Auspex readings. Enemy fleet consists of 47 vessels. Dreadnought-class battleships, heavy cruisers, and fast attack craft. Their technology appears to be a hybrid of bioengineering and captured alien systems. Standard Imperial tactics would require a battle group of at least 300 ships for engagement with acceptable losses. And non-standard tactics? A skull-faced grin crossed Thaddeus's features. We board their command ship, execute their leadership, and let their fleet tear itself apart in the resulting chaos. Estimated casualties, total Imperial victory. Marcus nodded. It was a plan so insane that only humans would attempt it, which meant it might actually work. "Brother Captain Zerath to bridge," came a voice through the Vox. "Boarding torpedoes are loaded and blessed. The machine god's wrath is ready for delivery." Marcus activated the ship-wide Vox system. "All hands, this is your Inquisitor. Today we face an enemy that believes humanity to be weak. They measure strength in numbers, technology and firepower. They do not understand that humanity's greatest weapon is something they cannot quantify, our absolute refusal to accept defeat." He paused, feeling the familiar fire building in his chest. They killed a child, a 6-year-old girl who had done nothing but exist under the protection of the Emperor's light. For this crime, we will show them what humanity becomes when pushed beyond reason. We will show them why the galaxy fears us. On the Reptilian command ship, Seth was reviewing tactical data when his communications officer suddenly stiffened. "Commander, we're receiving multiple transmissions from the human vessel." "Put them through." The bridge speakers filled with sound, but not the pleading surrender Seth expected. Instead, deep human voices began to sing, their words in a language the universal translators struggled to parse. It was haunting, beautiful, and somehow terrifying. "What is this?" Seth demanded. "It appears to be ceremonial vocalizations, sir. Some form of pre-combat ritual." The Death Corps Marines were singing the hymnal of hate, their voices joining in perfect harmony as they had for 1,000 years. The words spoke of duty, sacrifice, and the righteous anger that burned in every human heart. As they sang, they moved through the ship like dark angels of vengeance, each step bringing them closer to their destiny. "Analysis complete," the Reptilian tactical officer reported. "The human vessel is approaching at maximum thrust. No evasive maneuvers. They appear to be charging directly at us." Seth's scales rippled with confusion. Charging? 12 beings on one ship charging a fleet? This must be some form of elaborate suicide ritual. "All ships, prepare to fire." But Marcus had no intention of dying today. As the righteous fury screamed toward the reptilian fleet at impossible speeds, its ancient machine spirit singing with joy at the chance for violence, he stood in the boarding torpedo chamber with the Death Corps Marines. Each warrior was a masterpiece of genetic engineering and a lifetime of warfare. But more than that, each was human. "Remember," Marcus said as the torpedo tubes loaded with thunderous mechanical precision, "we are not just fighting for the Imperium today. We fight for every human child who will ever live under alien skies. We fight so that no Xenos will ever again mistake mercy for weakness." The ship's proximity alarms began to scream. Through the viewports, the massive reptilian vessels grew larger by the second. Energy beams lanced out, striking the righteous fury's void shields in spectacular cascades of light. The ancient ship shuddered, but did not slow. "Boarding range in 30 seconds, Captain Thaddeus announced. Marcus activated his power sword, its energy field crackling to life with a sound like barely contained lightning. For the Emperor, for the child of Kepler Prime, for humanity itself. "For the Emperor!" the Marines roared in unison. The torpedo tubes fired with a sound like the galaxy breaking. 12 boarding torpedoes, each containing a single warrior of the Death Corps, streaked through space toward the reptilian command ship. Behind them, the righteous fury began to burn as enemy fire overwhelmed its shields, but its job was done. Aboard the command ship, Seth watched in horror as his sensors tracked the incoming projectiles. Impossible. They're not retreating. They're not even trying to survive. What manner of creatures would sacrifice themselves for? The boarding torpedoes struck like the fist of an angry god. Ancient melter charges designed to crack open space hulks carved through the reptilian ship's bioarmor like tissue paper. In the sudden silence that followed, emergency lights cast everything in hellish red. Then the killing began. The Inquisitor's Vox crackled with reports from across the system. "My lord, Exterminatus. Torpedoes are armed and ready. Fleet command awaits your order." Kylthar watched in growing horror as human battle groups repositioned with mechanical precision. The child's death had triggered something primal in these Deathworlders, something that made even seasoned Eldar warriors step back in recognition of ancient fury. "Wait," the Eldar Farseer whispered, his psychic senses detecting something unprecedented. "The warp. It's changing around them. Their collective rage is manifesting as pure psychic energy." Sister Superior Morwen's voice echoed across all channels. "Hear me, Xeno scum. You killed an innocent child of the Emperor. There is no forgiveness, no mercy, only righteous vengeance." The reptilian commander hissed into his communicator. "Deploy all forces. These mammals are insane. They're willing to destroy an entire system over one offspring." Sergeant Thaddeus kicked down the blast doors of the alien command center, his chainsword roaring. Behind him, guardsmen poured in like an unstoppable tide. Bayonets fixed, war cries splitting the air. "For little Sarah," they screamed. "The Emperor's wrath." Tau Commander Shasui watched through his drone feeds, his normally composed demeanor cracking. "By the greater good, they're not just fighting for territory or resources. They're fighting for emotional attachment to a single individual. This is beyond tactical comprehension." The Kroot mercenary beside him chittered nervously. "Kroot understand pack loyalty, but humans make pack with all humans everywhere, always very dangerous, very deadly." Inquisitor Vex stood at the center of the carnage, his power armor crackling with psychic lightning. "Hear me, alien filth! Every world you've touched, every child you've harmed, today you answer for all of it." His psychic scream rippled across the battlefield, and every human felt it. Every guardsman, every sister, every space marine. They felt the connection, the shared purpose, the unified rage that made them more than individuals. Kael'thar's tactical display showed impossible readings. Human forces were taking 80% casualties, but advancing faster than before. Wounded soldiers were fighting with their bare hands when ammunition ran out. A sister of battle with both arms broken was headbutting aliens to death while reciting prayers. "How?" the Eldar commander breathed. "How do they function with such losses?" A dying guardsman crawled toward the nearest alien, a frag grenade in his teeth. His final words, "For Sarah, for the Emperor, for Terra." The explosion took out an entire reptilian heavy weapons team. Captain Mordian of the Ultramarines voxed the fleet. "Belay Exterminatus order. We're winning down here. These Xenos wanted to see human fury. Let them witness it up close." The reptilian leader's scaled face contorted in disbelief as his forces crumbled. "Impossible. We calculated human responses. They should have retreated or negotiated." Commissioner Kane executed a fleeing Xenos with his bolt pistol. "You calculated wrong, Snake. We don't negotiate with child killers." Tech Priest Omicron's mechanical voice intoned across the battlefield. "Omnissiah, guide our weapons. The machine god demands vengeance for the innocent." Even the usually stoic Adeptus Mechanicus fought with unusual fervor, their mechadendrites lashing out with deadly precision servo skulls, dive-bombing alien positions, while broadcasting hymns of retribution. The Tau forces, caught between advancing humans and retreating reptilians, found themselves in an impossible position. Commander Shasui made a desperate decision. "All units, broadcast surrender on human frequencies. Perhaps they will show mercy if we assist against the child killers." The response came from Sister Superior Morwen. "You fired on human civilians. There is no mercy, but kill reptilians, and we might. Let you die quickly." Kroot mercenaries, reading the tactical situation with predatory instinct, began switching sides mid-battle. "Kroot fight with stronger pack. Humans' strongest pack." The system's outer defenses crumbled as human reinforcements arrived. Not just military forces, but civilian volunteers, merchants with improvised weapons, even children too young for combat carrying ammunition to the front lines. Inquisitor Vex cornered the reptilian commander in the central spire. The alien's sophisticated camouflage technology was useless against human rage-enhanced senses. "Please," the creature hissed, "we can negotiate. Resources, territory, anything." "Negotiate?" Vex's voice was ice and fire. "You killed a human child. There are no negotiations with extinct species." His power sword took the alien's head in one clean stroke. The Eldar Farseer transmitted on all frequencies. "To any remaining resistance forces, surrender immediately. I have witnessed 10,000 years of warfare, seen empires rise and fall, watched the death of gods. But I have never seen anything like human retribution for their young. This is beyond war. This is extinction being delivered with personal satisfaction. Within 6 hours of little Sarah's death, the reptilian empire's core worlds burned, not from Exterminatus torpedoes, but from human boots on the ground, human hands at alien throats, human fury given perfect form. The final tally, 17 alien worlds purged, 3 species driven to extinction, and not one human military unit retreating even one step. As the dust settled, Kael'thar approached Sergeant Thaddeus. We underestimated your species' capacity for vengeance. Thaddeus cleaned alien blood from his chainsword. Vengeance? This wasn't vengeance, Zeno. This was justice. Harm our children, and we'll follow you to the edge of the galaxy. The Tau commander, now prisoner, spoke quietly. We understand now why the greater good fears humanity. You don't fight for abstract ideals. You fight for each other, personally, individually, with the fury of a parent protecting their young. Sister Morwen removed her helmet, her face streaked with tears and alien gore. That little girl called me Angel Sister when I gave her chocolate rations last week. She was 6 years old and wanted to be a sister of battle when she grew up. The weight of that statement fell on every alien present. They had not just killed a human child. They had killed someone's daughter, someone's future, someone's hope. And humanity had responded not with cold strategy, but with the burning rage of a billion broken hearts demanding justice. Commissioner Kane filed his final report. Exterminatus proved unnecessary. Human conventional forces achieved total enemy elimination with 94% efficiency. Recommend updating tactical doctrines to reflect human performance when emotionally motivated by protection of young. As the human fleet prepared to leave, Inquisitor Vex transmitted one final message to the galaxy. Let this serve as warning to all species. Humanity protects its children. Touch one human child in malice, and we will find you. We will follow you. We will end you. Not quickly, not cleanly, but completely. The Eldar Farseer's response echoed across the void. Message received and understood. Adding to permanent xenological records, humans are most dangerous when protecting their young. Recommend all species maintain maximum distance from human offspring. Kael'thar looked at the devastation wrought by human fury and finally understood. These were not warriors. These were parents, siblings, guardians of their species' future, and they would kill anyone, anywhere, anytime who threatened that future. As the human ships jumped to warp, their final Vox transmission carried across the system. The Emperor protects, but when the Emperor cannot reach, we become his. Krath, 6 hours, 1 dead child, 3 extinct species. Humans indeed, fuck yeah.
Angels fall.